Hello. Before we dive into part 2 of this episode, I gotta ask, did you catch part 1? If not, hit pause real quick. You'll want to start from the beginning to get the full effect. The link to part 1 is right down in the description below. Go ahead, catch up, and we'll be right here waiting for you, ready to dive into part 2 when you're all set. It's worth it, I promise.
So how do you balance this being strategic and showing up, but also protecting your energy and your values? We live in such a almost contrived world in many ways. And you need to show up, and this feels a little icky to me because I don't feel like I'm bored with this, but I feel like society says you should conform to a certain set of ideals. And I call them the should suitcase. You should do all these things. But do you also need to protect your energy and values as a human? How do you balance the strategic, intentional side and being vulnerable, yet also saving a piece of you so it's not all out there for the world to see? Like, how do you do that?
Wow, that's a big question. So part of it comes to the idea that should, right? People come to us for lots of different reasons. When I speak with people who are coming because of a should, I usually hear it right away when we have our first call. I do free strategy calls to see if we're a good fit. And somewhere in that conversation, I'll hear it. My clients keep telling me I should write a book. I have all this content. I know I should do something. So the first thing is when there's a should, I think of that as a red flag. Right? That the thing that's motivating you to do it is not necessarily strategic. It's emotional. Now, it may become strategic. Certainly something can start that way. But if you never make that transition from just that emotional impulse of I should do this, and you don't stop and start thinking about it with a little bit of remove, you might miss really important things. One of the most important things you might miss is that maybe you shouldn't write a book at all. Just because people are telling you should write a book does not necessarily mean that it's the right time, right? A book is a huge investment of time and energy. You need to protect your own resources. They don't know what you're dealing with. They don't know what you're going through. And most people who are so quick to tell you should write a book haven't written one and have absolutely no idea how much goes into writing and publishing a book. So it's very easy for them to say, oh, you should write a book. So you need to know that about yourself. I don't think big, important decisions in personal or business life should ever be made from a place of should.
For those in the back, listen, are you listening? Stop what you're doing and listen to this. What was that again, Allie?
I don't think important decisions in your personal or business life should ever be made from a place of should.
I feel like this is so powerful because, especially there's a lot of extra shoulds that we have. I just turned 50 this year. And in that evolution, I care less and less what other people think. I wasted a lot of time caring what people think. I don't know why, but I did. And I'm at a point now where I feel fairly empowered to have my own opinion of what works for me, what doesn't work for me. I still want to be friendly, don't get me wrong. I really feel more confident in who I am and what I want. And so many women are figuring this out as well. They're on their own journey where they are figuring this out, that the should suitcase is not something we have to carry. And it can be what I want as opposed to what should, and what feels right and what feels good and what works with your life and what works with your particular expertise level. I'm so glad you said that out loud, because that is something that we forget and we get caught up in all the shoulds. And if someone's telling you should write the book, that's actually a nice compliment. Great, wonderful. But you said, who are they to tell me I can write a book? They have never read a book, written a book. You have to make that investment for yourself in time and probably a little bit of money. Time is money and things like that. And you have to be prepared for that all the way around, from the idea to execution and that process. Going back to your gut feeling of what is right and wrong for you, right is key. So powerful.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to get content into the world, and there's so many different ways to connect with people. Obviously, I am a big fan of books. It's my life. And I do think that books can change lives. It's very important, and people have messages and programs and ideas that it's important to share. The world wants to hear them. Yeah. And also, a book isn't always the answer. Maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe it's not something that makes sense for your business at all. I did a podcast interview recently with a gentleman who was an SEO expert. And it was that we had the same conversation. He said, everyone keeps telling me I should write a book. But then I sit down and think about it. I just feel like everything that I would want to say will be like, it changes so fast. And I was like, yeah, honestly, you have a very successful podcast. You're using socials. You're already sharing your ideas. And you're in an industry where things change almost daily. I don't know that a book does make sense for you. If you really wanted to have a book, I'm sure we could figure out a way where you could talk about strategy or some level of SEO and internet work where you can talk about things that don't change as much. But Does it really make sense for your business? No, not really. And sometimes that's true. Somebody telling you should do something might be the spark. And maybe the next thing is you thinking about it and looking into it and going, yeah, I really should do that. Actually, I think that would be great for me. But it also might be, no, people just keep telling me I should do this and I don't want to do this. And that's okay.
We have so many of our clients come to us with this idea of, I was told I should do this and I should do this. And I have this idea and I have this idea. And our very first level of service is we call it a brand spark. It's like a deep dive, 90-minute therapy session, essentially. I'm a marketing therapist. Where have you been? Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And what are the challenges in your way? And then I help them see what is possible, the next 4 to 6 best opportunities to get to their vision, whatever that looks like, and the things they need to overcome in that process. And it might be visibility, it might be systems. There's a lot of things that can happen in there that would be part of that. But clarity is key to that. And I talk a lot about clarity on this podcast. That creates such a different level of intention, purpose, and strategy that you cannot have if you're not clear. If you're unfocused, I'm sure people have come with you with a shoebox of ideas, right? Here's all the ideas I have, Allie. What do you think? If you're that creative, that's amazing. But not everyone should be doing that.
There's also a later stage where that really comes into play. I do some of that work. The bulk of our business, though, really picks up when the draft is finished. So we start with developmental editing, which is big picture editing. And that's also where a lot of that refining can happen. So if somebody, for whatever reason, didn't get that kind of support early on, either because they thought they had the idea, they didn't need help, or maybe they just didn't need the help. There just wasn't enough people in their ecosphere to tell them that they should seek out a coach or a consultant. So we'll get a lot of people who haven't had anybody look at their draft at all, maybe 1 or 2 people, a spouse or something. And we're the first people who are really seeing this draft. And sometimes it feels like a shoebox full of ideas put together in a draft. Sometimes it's a much more polished version with a lot of ideas in it. But that is also something we do at that developmental stage. We help them by asking smart questions, probably very similar to the kinds of questions you have in that call you just mentioned. What do you do in your business? Who do you serve? Where do you want to go next? What are you actually trying to do next in your business? How do you see this book fitting into your business? Where's the Venn diagram of the people the book is speaking to and the people that you're actually serving? And even just asking those questions, sometimes people will say without prompting, oh boy, I wrote the wrong book. Or, oh, I should have targeted those people. Sometimes it's not that obvious. Sometimes it's more just that the book itself is dancing around a subject or it's too broad and needs to be narrow. There's lots of different problems that we fix in a draft. But in the developmental stages also, clarity is one of the most important parts of that process. We're not getting into misplaced commas and misspellings and that kind of stuff at this stage. We're looking at who is the book for? What are you promising those people with this book? Is that clear? Is it compelling? Is it going to bring the right people into your business? Is this the book that's going to help you to achieve whatever goals you told me you want to achieve? And then through that editing process, we can help them to shape that draft into the thing they actually were trying to write in the first place.
So good. You talk about you have a team now and they grow. And with the growth comes challenges all on its own, right? But is there something that you've let go or delegated that's made your business feel far more sustainable by letting it go?
Oh my gosh. Yes, so much. I feel like my entire career has been a process of letting things go. That has been one of the biggest challenges, is that shift from solopreneur to being a CEO. And really, I love that saying about you're working too much in your business. You need to be working on your business. You need to get a certain amount of distance and space. And especially in a business that evolved the way mine did, where I was the person doing all the things. And I brought on a few other people where I was still doing some things, but they were helping to do other types, where we split it up by genre in the beginning. And as time went by, I did less and less of the deliverables and the client work and had people doing more and more of that. And it's been a real journey. There have been a lot of things that were really challenging to turn over. I still do the sales calls, the introductory calls with people, the strategy calls. I still look at everything before it goes out the door. I'm still at that high level, but I'm no longer the person answering all the emails. I'm no longer the person putting the proposals together. I'm no longer the person coordinating between the editors and the designers and the client and making sure everybody gets what they need. I have a fantastic team that helps with that, but it took a long time to get there for sure.
Has there been a tool or an app or anything that's been like a lifesaver for you in that process?
Oh my God, Asana. I swear by Asana. It's my favorite. It's a project management tool for you who don't know. It has an incredibly robust free version, which is how I got introduced to it. I used the free version for probably close to 15 years. And I definitely had to like rig some things to work in the free version where the paid version would have done it more easily. But I was very comfortably using that free version for a really long time because it's such a good tool. And now that I'm using the paid version, because my business has just evolved to a point where the benefits and the tools of the paid version just make that much more sense and are translating into dollars for me now. It makes sense to do it that way. I can't imagine coordinating a team without some kind of project management central hub type tool. The very act when I first started using it of getting things out of my brain instead of having to hold everything in my head all the time, and now having a place to just put it where other people can jump on it and exercise it. Total game changer.
Yes. We use Monday. I use Asana with one of my clients, so I'm pretty familiar with that as well. And we've used a couple other systems as well, like over the years, but Monday, it's everything. Because I remember waking up at 3 a.m. before Monday or before a project management system and freaking out, did that thing happen? And now there's like a trail of things and I can let stuff go because I know I can just go in there and see the update. It changes everything. So yeah, I would totally agree with you. So I have a magic hat.
Ooh.
It's purple and sparkly. So this is my version of the rapid fire round. And we'll just do a few and then we'll go to the next segment. If your brand had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. I can't think of one. Every song I know just went right out of my head. Let's say something, probably it would be something around something poppy and something about not giving up on yourself. Something around you're important. People want what you have.
One of my personal songs is It's My Life, like by Bon Jovi. So for those that are listening too, think about what if your brand was a song, what would it look like? And then how does it play out in your brand? We actually have a Spotify playlist that we give to our clients that's all about creative focus, but in there is fun songs ready to spark and ignite and these things about being magical and like witchy woman and like really fun that are related to our brand. What's something in your business that brings you pure joy?
Writing. I really love to create content and I really love writing. Like I was working on some blog posts yesterday and some emails and social posts that kind of went along with it. And I really love the creative process. Just love how I feel. I love the idea that I can take all of these ideas and experiences and essentially boil it down to a few hundred words and that somebody out there is going to read this and it's going to change their life. Even if it's just one person, somebody's going to get something from this article that is a total game changer for them. And that's really exciting.
Yeah. I recently had somebody who I didn't know at me on LinkedIn saying the brilliant Beverly Cornell, and it was about confidence. She heard something I talked about confidence and how she tried the thing that she was afraid to try. And it resulted in some success for her. And it was so affirming. What's a decision that completely changed the trajectory of your business?
The decision not to scale. I spent a large amount of time early in the business, as most business owners do, scaling. And speaking of shoulds, that's a really big one in the business world, right? It's almost a given that if you have some kind of business, people just assume that naturally means you want to grow, you want to scale, you want to get bigger, you want to get better, you want to dominate your industry. And there was a time where that was true for me. And I invested tons of time and energy in all of that work and in scaling and in getting bigger. And a few years back, I had an opportunity where I was in a relationship with a partner and had a much larger audience than I did. And we experimented with a relationship where we got folded in to their portfolio. And as part of that effort, I suddenly had a much bigger target of what we wanted to bring in. And we did. I spent a year really hardcore, probably doing twice as many clients as we'd ever done before. I brought new team members on. All of our systems got tested. All of our SOPs got tested. I was very pleased to see that my systems worked very well and the scaling itself worked very well. But it was so stressful and it was so much work. And it required me to remove myself from the process in a way that I hadn't expected. Because to make something like that happen, you need to do a lot of delegating. There needs to be a lot of things that are not directly related to you or directly dependent on you. And to be honest, even though we were very successful, I really hated it. And my team really hated it. And we all just made a decision, you know what? We want to have enough resources to help a significant number of people. But my mission is no longer to get bigger and bigger. It's just not something I'm interested in anymore. I want to get leaner. I want to get more efficient. I want everything to be smoother. And I want everybody working in this company and everybody who works with us to just feel like the entire process is a joy.
So good. What's one thing you believed about branding or marketing that turned out to be complete BS?
There was a time when I, again with the shoulds, was trying to build up social media followings on all the platforms because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And I thought that any real business was doing that. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything that was out there, I thought we had to do it. And I got involved with a business community and a mastermind community where I started to meet a lot of people who didn't use social media at all and had perfectly successful businesses that they were marketing other ways. They just didn't use social media. And it was so mind-blowing to me. Wait a minute. You mean I don't actually have to do this? There are other ways to market a business? I still have some social accounts, but I am not nearly as active on them, and I don't consider it a primary means of marketing anymore.
What's one thing people overcomplicate about marketing that's actually really simple?
I'll talk about book marketing in particular, because I think it applies a little bit more broadly. But one of the things that we know is when people are getting ready to market a book is they have this idea that the book is going to be for everybody, that in order for it to be successful, they need to get it to everybody, to as many people as possible. And to some degree, that's true. There is some numbers involved.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what's really more important is that it gets to the right people. You want that book in the hands of the right readers, right? You'll have more success with 1,000 people who are genuinely the target audience for your book than you will from getting 10,000 people to download it for free and never read it. That's going to get you an Amazon badge, but it's not going to get you anything else. I tell people sometimes that if you're trying to speak to everyone, you're connecting with no one.
This is where niching becomes so incredibly powerful, Allie. And so many people are afraid of it. When I'm niched, when I really got clear that I helped overwhelmed overachiever who own a business and are doing all the things and don't want to be burnt out anymore when it comes to marketing and branding. When I got really clear, and consultants, coaches, and creatives, those are my favorite people, it didn't limit who came to me. But what it did do was bring the right kinds of souls to my door. So I have accountants, and I have an astrologer that's a client. I have a deaf interpreter who's a client. And I also have an NFL pro player. So it doesn't mean that it's only a certain kind of person, a certain kind of role, but it can be the essence of who they are. Those are the people that I'm going to connect with and be the most successful with. And to me, that makes it more fun. And if I had 100 people who are exactly who I want to work with, then I could have a very sustainable business for a pretty long time with just that amount of people. So the 1,000 versus the 10,000 versus the millions. And like I said, I never had the goal to be a New York Times bestseller. First of all, you have to pay for all that, and that's nonsense. But I really just wanted to have something that I could share that would connect with my ideal client and help them in some way, shape, or form on the journey of branding and marketing and being an overwhelmed overachiever, because I've been there and done that thing and I know how hard it is. So I feel like while people are very reticent to do it, when they do, it's a game changer for them. And they'll see some like side benefit, because when you have a really clear niche and you have a really clear end purpose in that, the process is easier because you can say really easy yes, no to decisions, and simplifies marketing on a level that you could never be simplified before. That was my magic hat round. Super fun questions. Thank you for sharing such wonderful bits of advice and thoughts. I also have a magic wand because I'm the fairy godmother of brand clarity. The wand gives me lots of fun things that I can do, but one of them is I can go back in time. And so when I wave the wand, I want us to go back to 18-year-old Allie, and I want the current Allie to give 18-year-old Allie some advice that she should have had or should have followed that would have saved her some grief and heartache and headache as it relates to being an entrepreneur and a founder and a CEO sooner than she got it. What advice would you give her?
One piece of advice I would give her is that when you try to deviate from the common path, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a creative, when you try to do something that most people aren't doing, very well-intentioned, loving people are going to try to protect you. And it's not because the reality is actually scary. It's because of their own fears and experiences. That would have been a very helpful thing to hear when I was young. I was always a very entrepreneurial and creative person. I think I made a lot of choices that felt like the safe choices because of all the cautions and things that I either heard explicitly or absorbed unintentionally from my parents, from family members, other people in my life. And those things were not necessarily true. But I made those choices because it felt like somebody who knew better was trying to protect me. And I learned now, looking back, they meant well, but they were afraid of things that maybe were challenging for them that were not so challenging for me. And the other thing that I think would have really been a game changer would have been if I could tell her, you see these examples of people making it on their own and doing their own thing, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. I didn't hire my first coach and work with my first mastermind group till I'd been in business for several years already. And if I had understood the power of community and the power of having an expert who's walked the path that I've walked, get into my business and help me. Even if I had to put it on a credit card, even if I had to ask my parents, whatever it would have taken to get that kind of help and support much earlier than I did, I think would have skyrocketed the business much sooner and helped me to grow much more easily.
Both good pieces of advice for sure. Now I can wave the wand and I can go into the future. And we could talk about, in decades and decades away, what your legacy is. What do you think people will say about the Writer's Ally and Ally as your legacy as it relates to your business? What are you leaving behind?
I hope I'm leaving behind hundreds of authors who tell their friends and family members how grateful they are to have met me and my team, because we played such an important role in them achieving a major dream for them. I hope that we get to continue to be a part of that story whenever they tell it. And I'm writing some books. I'm working on a book now, talking about your shoemaker's children and all that. I've helped hundreds of people publish books. I've ghostwritten other people's books, but I have not written my own book. So I am finally in the season of my business where I'm getting to do that now that I have delegated and gotten all of those other things off my plate. Wow. I'm now writing my own books. So I hope that those books also will be out there as a legacy and to continue to get more great books out into the world.
So good, Ally. Congratulations on doing that for yourself. It took me a long time. I joke like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. And then at one point I was like, I want Louis Vuitton shoes. That's what I want. Not actual Louis Vuittons, but I want Louis Vuittons of marketing for myself. And what I decided then was I didn't really want Louis Vuittons. I want some iridescent, sparkly slipper flats is what I really want. And those are the things that make the most sense for me. And so I'm so glad that you're stepping into your version of the iridescent Louis Vuittons or whatever for yourself. You determine what they are for you. And
thank you.
And fully own them and step into them and feel your magic in that as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
For everyone else, and then finally give yourself the attention that you need. It's very affirming as well. So congratulations on that move. Huge.
Thank you. It is quite literally like that stereotypical story. I've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. I'm so sick of hearing myself talk about it. So I'm finally doing it.
So excited for you in this process. It's going to be life-changing for you. So I'm leaving us back into the present time. We're back into 2025. What I heard from the application that we talked about earlier was that maybe you have a free little giveaway or something for people who are interested in possibly writing a book, doing this hard thing. Maybe this whole podcast has convinced them that this is what they want to do and not what they should do. And so what is this special gift you have for our listeners?
Yeah, it's a recorded training. It's about 25, 30 minutes called Don't Write the Wrong Book. And it is designed to help experts, coaches, consultants, folks who have subject matter expertise write a book that is going to actually move the needle in their business, whatever goals they have for their business, new leads, better leads, different leads, speaking gigs, media opportunities, whatever that looks like. The training is all about understanding, number one, why any book won't do. It can't just be any book to grow your business. And people think that's all it takes. It doesn't. It has to be the right book. And then I help them understand, what does the right book actually look like? And how do you avoid writing the wrong book? Because I have seen in my years in business, sadly, too often, people have put in enormous amounts of time, energy, and money into writing a book, sometimes even publishing a book before I get to them. And they come to me and they say, I have this book and I want to use it to do this thing. And I have to break the news to them. That book is absolutely not going to achieve the goal that they want to achieve. And it is absolutely heartbreaking to say that. I'm sure it's 100 times more heartbreaking to hear it. So do yourself a favor and check out this webinar first. Whatever stage you're at in writing your book, whether you haven't started yet or you already have a draft, check it out. It'll be really helpful. It's at offers.thewritersally.com. /spark and ignite, spelled out AND.
Awesome. So if you had to give one piece of actionable advice for someone today, besides watching the webinar, because that's huge, what is one thing you would tell to our listeners today about stepping into their confidence as it relates to writing a book? What's the piece of advice you'd give them?
The internet and the evolution of technology has made publishing a book and reaching people with that book so much more accessible. And I do think that there are so many more people out there. I don't think everybody should write a book. It's not always right for you. But I do think that people who are being held back by the idea that there are already too many books out there, I don't have anything special to say, who cares what I have to say? I would say to you, first of all, almost nobody has ever written a book that was totally original, right? New ideas are very rare. What matters is that you have a unique perspective. You have your experiences. You have your ideas and your thoughts about those experiences. You have your unique personality and your way of dealing with things and of doing things. And no matter what subject you're talking about, even if it has been written about 100 times before, if you do your due diligence, if you're clear about who you're talking to and what you want those people to do and how you want to help them, there will be people out there who want to hear what you have to say and who need to hear it in the way that only you can deliver. So don't let yourself get hung up. I'm not Tony Robbins and I'm not Oprah and I'm not going to sell a billion copies. You don't have to sell a billion copies to change lives. You could sell a few copies and change a few lives. And that's still more than most people in the world even ever attempt.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many things came up for me when you were talking about that. First thing is that this is my Oprah moment right now. Like I'm on a podcast interviewing you, Allie. I am totally channeling Oprah. This is an opportunity for me to do the thing that I love to do, meet new people, hear their stories, exchange energy, cheer each other on, all the things that I think are so freaking magical as far as being a human and being in this world together. And we specifically work with women, really amazing women. And so it's so cool. You guys always make me feel so hopeful about the world and what is possible in that. So this is my Oprah.
Do we all get an iPad?
Can you get a spark? Can you get a spark? Yeah, I wish. That would be super fun. But the thing that I hear you saying, what is so incredibly important and powerful is if it's right for you, if this is something that you really feel that you wanted to do and it makes sense for you, don't hold yourself back. This is an opportunity. This is an invitation to take this next step. And when we help build a brand, we talk about all those same exact things.
Totally.
What is this for? How do you help? What's the transformation you offer? All those things. Being on a book journey is very much like being on a brand and marketing journey, and they go hand in hand. And may I say that if you are looking for some clarity in all of that first, we would love to help you get there and then take that to the next level. We have oftentimes recommended and suggested podcasts and books for that next level. Once you have that clarity and you really understand who you are, what you do, how you serve, who you serve in all the ways, once you have that and you really have your voice and stuff down, that next best step to be more visible and build that authority is something like a podcast or a book or all of the above. This is an invitation. And Allie, tell people where they can connect with you and your work, and maybe take that invitation, whether it's the actual webinar or just to connect with you on LinkedIn or your website. How can they find you?
Yeah, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. You can follow me and get a lot of content that way. But if you come to our website at thewritersally.com, we have a few different free resources that you can opt in to download. We have a blog that has lots of great content on it. If you get one of our gifts and join our mailing list, I also continue to publish and share great opportunities. I do some partner marketing as well. So I introduce opportunities from other folks that I think would be useful to people, as well as all the content that I'm sharing about books. And I do an open Ask Me Anything session once a month that if you are on my list, you will get invited to.
So good. Allie, it's been a true pleasure. I've learned so much. Maybe I'm not alone in my 7-day challenge, but I'm not alone in all the things that I've felt around this book process and how hard it is, how scary it is, how empowering it is, and how important it has been for my journey. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
So fun. So if you're listening and thinking, wow, I want this kind of clarity and confidence in my brand and possibly to write a book, this is your invitation to do that. Allie's happy to help you. If you need help along the way, we'd be happy to walk with you on this process. We'd love to hear from you. Just check out wickedlybranded.com. So I hope you found this episode of the Spark Ignite Your Marketing podcast as fun and as inspiring as I did. Stay tuned for more episodes. And until next time, keep sparking and igniting. Thank you so much for tuning into the Spark and Ignite Your Marketing podcast. I hope you found today's conversation or activation be something clear and actionable that you can take back to your very own business. If you found this helpful, I'd love it if you take a moment to share your thoughts in a review. Not only does this help us see what's working and what you'd like to hear more of, but it also helps other business owners just like you find the sparks that they need. And if you know someone who could use today's tips, why not share this episode with them? A little inspiration can go a long way, and together, we can help more people simplify their marketing and make their business shine.